Good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. Back in my day, Pokemon evolutions were pretty straightforward. Everything either evolved through leveling up, using a stone, or trading, and the little turtle would evolve into the bigger turtle, simple enough. But through the years, Pokemon evolution has gradually become more complex, not just through the designs, but also through the methods of evolution themselves. So today, I'll be doing my best to explain every weird evolution in Pokemon. Granted, on the design side of things, there are definitely quite a few that I can't explain, like, why does a woodpecker turn into a toucan? Why does an acorn turn into a demon? I don't know, that's just the way it is. But with that out of the way, let's get started. So, one of the first Pokemon with a truly strange evolution requirement was Feebas, introduced in Generation 3. To put some added emphasis on the newly introduced contest, Feebas would only evolve into Milotic if its beauty was raised to a high enough value. Of course, a simple bass evolving into a creature seemingly based on the mythical Loch Ness Monster doesn't make a ton of sense, so the inspiration for this evolution likely comes from the classic tale of the ugly duckling, who later becomes a beautiful swan after being outcast by others. Although this would be revisited in a much more literal sense later on with Ducklet and Swanna. Unfortunately, since the beauty stat doesn't exist in Generation 5, they just evolved by simply leveling up. Of course, this also meant that Feebas' evolution method had to be revisited, as the Prism Scale was introduced as a substitution item. Now, sadly, there's not much to really explain with the Prism Scale. It doesn't appear to be inspired by any outside lore. It's basically just a quick fix to a small problem. Although it's worth noting that when the beauty stat returned in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the Prism Scale also stuck around, meaning that for a short time, Feebas was the only Pokemon that could evolve through two completely different methods. As an added fun fact, you could actually evolve Feebas to Milotic in Heart Gold and Soul Silver despite the beauty stats not being visible in those games. You can still raise Feebas' beauty in those games by letting Daisy groom it or by taking it to the Goldenrod Haircut brothers. Wait a minute. Feebas doesn't have any hair. Or does he? What about another Gen 3 water type, Clamperl? Neither of its evolutions seem to particularly resonate with the base design. Well, for starters, we have to understand what Clamperl is. It's actually not a clam, nor a pearl. It's actually based on a roe, the egg of a fish. As for Huntail and Gorbis, they're actually more closely related than meets the eye, with both of them being based on different types of oarfish, an extremely rare deep-sea creature. This is the reason why Clamperl huddles inside of its shell, because in all reality, it's just a feeble, unhatched egg that's somehow able to control a clamshell through its thoughts. Like a mech. Yeah, I bet you didn't see me making Clamperl look cool today, did you? Keeping with Generation 3, let's discuss the Trapinch family. Many have often wondered how the insect like Flygon and Vibrava come from whatever the heck Trapinch is supposed to be. Like Clamperl, it would help to first know what Trapinch is. Trapinch is mostly based on an antlion, a real-life animal with large pincers that burrows into the sand. They are quite ugly looking, so I'm not going to show a picture, don't worry. And yes, this is the same creature that inspired the Sarlacc pit in Star Wars, in case you're wondering. But later in life, these antlions emerge from the sand as large dragonfly-like creatures. Though this still begs the question, why are Vibrava and Flygon dragon-type instead of bug? Well, the answer to that likely comes from Trapinch's other inspiration, the Knucker, a mythical English creature that burrows underground and is believed to be a dragon. We can see this inspiration in Trapinch's Japanese name, which is Nukrar. Next, let's take a visit to the Kalos region with Pancham. Pancham can evolve into Pangoro starting at level 32, but only when there's a Dark-type Pokemon present in the party. Since Pancham is quite literally the playful Pokemon who becomes a Dark-type itself upon evolving, this evolution method is likely a reflection of the Japanese youth being led astray by bad influences, like gang members and delinquents, as Pangoro itself is meant to be a Bancho, or the leader of a group of delinquents. Basically, your Dark-type Pokemon is corrupting the youth, and the old people at Game Freak must have been really mad about it because they wanted to spread the word through this Pokemon design. Except Pangoro is really cool, so they may have unintentionally inspired more delinquency. Oh well, they tried. But just over the hill from where the Pancham live in Kalos is yet another peculiar 6th gen Pokemon, Inkay. As we all know, Inkay will evolve into Malamar starting at level 30, but only if your 3DS or Nintendo Switch is turned upside down. And also, your smartphone in Pokemon Go has to be turned upside down too. Neat. Except it really isn't for people who don't have a gyroscope in their phone. Apparently they just can't evolve Inkay, which really sucks for them. But the reason for this method, as well as why Malamar's design is just an upside-down squid, is because many real-life gastropods go through a similar process where during their development they coil and rotate, leaving what would be the bottom of their body at the top. Now hold it right there, Jotaro Kujo, marine biologist. I know you were about to tell me that Inkay and Malamar are actually cephalopods, not gastropods, which is completely true. But they are still based on mollusks, which for Game Freak was probably close enough for them to justify this incredibly strange evolution method. Let's take a quick break from strange methods and go back to strange design changes, specifically Remoraid evolving into Octillery. After all, how does the fish Pokemon become the octopus Pokemon? That is completely out of left field. Well, actually, you're supposed to completely disregard the animal aspect of the design and focus more on the pistol turning into a cannon. This was much more evident in the Elite Gold and Silver beta designs we got last year though, as you can clearly see the weapon aspect of their design wasn't as subtle as it is now. Speaking of Remoraid, Mantike can only evolve into Mantine if there's a Remoraid in the party, as Remoraid will attach itself to a Mantine's underside upon evolving. This is another reference to real life, where fish will commonly swim underneath large manta rays in a form of mutualism, where the fish eats scraps of food stuck to the manta ray, and the manta ray receives a nice skincare routine to keep itself healthy. This is also why Remoraid is seen beneath Mantine in its earlier sprites. Since Remoraid is meant to be a pistol and Mantine a plane, together they could represent a fighter plane. Man, now that is a creative design, tying together mutualism and aviation. Someone really thought about this. Though, ironically, in Generation 4, when Mantike and this new evolution method was introduced, the Remoraid disappeared from Mantine's sprite and has not reappeared since. Presumably this was done to not confuse players who thought they might lose their Remoraid when Mantike evolves, as the Remoraid continues to exist as a separate Pokemon after the evolution. The Remoraid no longer clings to Mantine in its more recent anime appearances or in new Pokemon Snap either, although Remoraid is depicted swimming alongside Mantine in its Gen 4 artwork, as well as in the Pokemon TCG. So, nowadays their relationship is a bit more complicated, you could say. Sticking with Gen 2, let's talk about one of the many new baby Pokemon introduced, Tairogue. Tairogue is the only Pokemon that joined together two previously unrelated Pokemon, those being Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, and it also added Hitmontop to the family in the process. At level 20, Tairogue will evolve into Hitmontop if its attack and defense are equal, reflecting how balance is necessary to keep a top upright. It will instead evolve into Hitmonchan if its defense is higher than its attack, presumably because boxing is a very defensive sport, with boxers more often than not guarding themselves with their fists in front of their face. Although, ironically, after evolving, Hitmonchan gains far more attack than it gains defense. And of course that leaves Hitmonlee, which you get from having higher attack than defense. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm a professional kickboxer, because I'm not. Wow, 2 SpongeBob references in one video. I'm on fire, baby! But I can assume that you have to kick people really hard. So, there you go. As for another group of Pokemon that's related, but not really, we have Shelmet and Carablast, who can only evolve when these two Pokemon specifically are traded for one another, reflecting the concept of co-evolution, where competing species will evolve to outwit each other or to gain a competitive advantage of some sort. In the case of these two, Carablast is the predator hunting Shelmet. Shelmet, who is a slower Pokemon, abandons its shell to become an agile ninja, whereas Escavalier takes over Shelmet's discarded shell and focuses more on defense, seemingly reversing their roles. While we're on the topic of trait evolutions, let's take a look at some of the originals, Graveler and Machoke. Both of these Pokemon go through a rather interesting mutation upon being traded, as Graveler's 4 arms become 2 as a Golem, and Machoke's 2 arms split into 4 as Machamp. Now, unlike Shelmet and Carablast, these two aren't strictly tied to one another, but I find this coincidence rather odd. Maybe it's meant to demonstrate how the trading process isn't completely stable and may cause odd reactions to occur in certain Pokemon. Now, as for Alakazam and Gengar, who knows? There are tons of theories out there about their inner sadness about being traded and having to go to another person to experience true growth and happiness and whatnot, but you know, it's a little hard to say for certain with just their designs. I'll leave the interpretation up to you. Last but not least, probably the strangest evolution of them all, Galorian Yamask evolving into Runarikus. This evolution method sounds like the one that your kindergarten friend whose dad worked for Nintendo made up. You have to take at least 49 damage in a battle from attacks, not statuses, weather, or recoil, and then walk underneath the stone bridge in the Dusty Bowl section of the wild area. This completely baffled me when I first heard about it, but through the power of Google, I now know why. So for starters, the 49 damage is likely a loose reference to the Buddhist concept of purgatory, which happens for 49 days before the soul can be reincarnated. This makes sense actually, seeing as how the Pokédex describes Yamask as a human soul rather than a Pokémon. On the other hand, Runarikus takes inspiration from the Ingvar runestones, tablets placed across Britain that detail the journeys of the Vikings. Many of these runes feature serpent-like drawings, and they were meant to commemorate their fallen comrades. This would make sense for a regional form like Yamask, since in this area of the world, the dead are remembered by these runes, rather than by coffins that inspired Cofagrigus. It's yet another Galorian Pokemon with a uniquely British inspiration, although one that you may have to dig a little deeper to fully understand. I quite like the concept of this one. Thanks for watching today's video. It's my birthday, actually. Well, this video is going up on Friday the 24th, so when you're watching it, yesterday was actually my birthday. So if you want to give me a present, a like on this video and a subscription to the channel is all I need. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.